I just got back from seeing the Backrooms. I'm not going to bury the lead. I think it was good. I think it's worth seeing. It's hard to tell how to recommend this movie when it comes to people who don't normally like horror, because this is not jump scare horror. This is, I don't know if slow burn horror is the right word. It's psychological horror, but it's also kind of a pioneer of liminal horror. The director is this guy named Kane Parsons. A few years ago, he just made some YouTube shorts when he was like 16 years old or something like that. He got to direct this movie. He is 20 years old. He was still a teenager while directing this movie. The dude crushed it. It's really good. The script was great. The cinematography was good. And I really hope that when award season comes around that this movie gets some recognition for its production design. For folks who are not familiar with liminal horror, there's a specific quote from the movie you can use to describe it, but I'm going to leave that quote alone and just do my best to describe it. Liminal horror is when you take spaces that feel familiar, but everything in it is a little off. Objects do not necessarily react with the rest of reality in the way that it should. Things are sunk into the floor a bit. Things are cockeyed. There's ceiling tiles for walls. There's parts of the room that are not lit like the rest of it. Shadowy gaps cut off otherwise illuminated hallways. And while you know there can't be anything in that little space, that creeping shadow gets under your skin. And that's the idea of liminal horror. It's closer to a form of dread than a form of fear. Apparently, they built an actual 30,000 square foot set, and the crew occasionally got genuinely lost in it, which had to be a pretty surreal experience. And if this is this guy's like first bigger budget movie, he's got a hell of a career ahead of him. I mean, good for him, dude. Congratulations to this guy. Now, I'm not gonna spoil the whole thing. I'm not gonna give out all the meat and potatoes in this video, but I'll call this kind of light spoilers. The thing about liminal horror is you can't really explain it. It can't really have a source. Not easily. Not to any particular degree of satisfaction. When you see the environment in this movie, what possible answer would satisfy you for just how strange and off-putting everything is? Which leads to one thing that I feel like some people might level against this movie. And I'm not going to say what happens, but here's what I'm going to say, and I'll consider it a light spoiler. It has nothing to do with any specific characters or anything like that. Sometimes a movie ends. Sometimes a movie stops. I think it's going to be kind of open to interpretation what this one does. When I saw the last shot of this movie, I said to myself, oh, this is definitely the last shot of the movie. And wouldn't you know it, it was the last shot of the movie. For me, it felt like this movie stops because you can still see some room for resolution when it comes to some of the things that just took place on screen. But what makes it so tricky is to what end could you push this in a manner that is ultimately satisfactory? I mean, I believe in going into any movie as blind as you can, but if I'm going to say what I think about it, I got to put a couple of the cards on the table. Maybe not the full flop, but a couple of cards. But yeah, again, huge congratulations to Kane Parsons. What an awesome debut for this guy. The budget's about $10 million. It's going to rake in way more than that. And this guy's going to have a lot of work ahead of him if he decides to take it on. And I hope he does. For a premise that relies so heavily on its off-putting environment, the characters are really good. A lot of care and consideration went into our two leads, and it shows. Their character motivations have a thicker presence in this movie than you would initially think, given the premise. It really is a one-of-a-kind aesthetic, because there's a mix of familiarity to it, but also there's a lot of creative freedom to it, where one room might just look like an abandoned office with some furniture sunk into the floor, and the next room is a pool. The movie feels both grimy and sterile. And of course, something is in here with our protagonists. And yes, you do eventually see what is in there with them. And when I saw what it was, I did have that thought of, oh, we're doing this. But the this that the movie did, it made sense, and it blended with the themes pretty well. I like it. I recommend it. I can see how it could be a little bit hit or miss for some folks. It is not a fast-burning horror movie. It doesn't take long to get to the good stuff, but it does take a bit of time for us to get to what this movie actually ends up being about. One thing I did not particularly expect this movie to be is poignant. It actually generated some pretty interesting conversations with me and my friend after we were done watching. Horror has been having kind of a resurgence within the last decade or so, and I'm happy to say that Backrooms stands pretty tall alongside resurging high-quality horror. I use the term horror kind of lightly, or maybe in a very specific way. The theater I was in was pretty packed, but it wasn't loud. People weren't screaming. I'm open to being wrong on this, but this movie didn't strike me as the kind of horror movie that would make a huge difference seeing it in a packed theater. But I do think this movie is worth seeing in a theater. Some movies I'll tell myself, okay, I could have waited for that one. This one's different. I think this visual aesthetic deserves to be seen on a big screen if you can manage it. I got to see it with my friend Joseph Curtis. He reviews movies on YouTube all the time. I'll put a link to his channel in the corner and down in the description. And I hope you all stay safe. Take care of yourselves out there.